Hello, everyone. Jason Hagholm here, and today I am joined by Jeremy Kennedy, who on October the 1st will be taking on Aaron Pico at Bellator 286 in Long Beach, California. Jeremy, how are you doing?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me.
Well, Jeremy, first and foremost, it's been a while since we've seen you fight in the cage, and you're coming off that fantastic performance to close out 2021 against Emmanuel Sanchez. Let's go over that fight because I thought that was the best we've seen you look at inside the Bellator cage. Like, how would you grade your performance back in December of last year?
Yeah, it's crazy how it feels so long ago because I've done two full camps, after the injury of the last one. But yeah, that fight, it went, you can't be complain over, sweeping the scorecards and not really taking much damage against a vet like Sanchez is, and a big staple in Bellator that he is, and ranked fourth at the time in the division, so you can't be too upset with it or critical of it. But I still haven't got to show my full game. That showed my grappling prowess, and he was known as a submission guy who's been handling wrestlers with triangles and rear naked chokes and spinning guys, and I kind of shut all that shit down. And it just kind of shows that he was one of the better grapplers in the division. What the rest of these guys have to worry about. So I like making that statement, but at the same time, I still haven't. Maybe I'm just my own worst critic, but I haven't had my like a marquee performance that I'm like, bam, that's Jeremy Kennedy, So I'm hoping this is the one, and I think Pico's the type of guy that's going to bring it out of me. He's going to bring from feet to the floor. I'm training like I am fighting the boogeyman, because that's how the narrative is, and that's how the media built this guy up as. And I'm not looking past him. I'm not underestimating him. I'm not overestimating him. I'm just preparing that this is the absolute best guy I fought, and I have to be the absolute best me. And I've set a whole new standard of how I want to approach each fight and what shape I need to be in for these fights. And this is it. This is the best me. So.
Well, you were supposed to fight Aaron back in April, and then you suffered an orbital injury. Like, when did that injury happen there, Jeremy? And how did that happen?
It's crazy. Like we're here the Wednesday before fight week, and this is literally the day that I got the news of my imaging that it was fractured. It was my last hard sparring on a Tuesday, which was yesterday, and got hit with like a weird open knuckles right on the inside, like the soft spot of your face there, and didn't really hurt. Just felt like a bag of rocks, like pebbles kind of thing, and my teeth went numb. So I just thought something was off. Like I wasn't rocked or dazed or anything. It was just just felt weird. Went to the doctor. He suggested getting a CT because there could be a fracture. And I got the news like today of last camp. So I had done a full camp. Like now I'm kind of cruising. I did my hard session this morning, and I'm just riding into fight week, And so it was like that last moment that possibly something could have went wrong. Something did. So, but then that's again, just, I did an entire full camp and I didn't get to go do the walk, so I'm just that much more revved up and fired up to get going, and fight. I've done two full camps and I haven't got to fight. So I'm very excited for this one.
And more importantly about this fight, because we said you're supposed to fight Aaron back in April, how happy are you that Bellator decided to just keep that same matchup here for October 1st?
Very excited, because I think he's the guy that, it's the biggest fight in the division right now. And I think if you were to ask anybody on the street what featherweight matchup you're looking at, this is the one that has a lot of question marks, a lot of people are intrigued on, and has the most stakes, So I think the risk first reward, this is the fight you want, if you want to move towards that title and the bigger picture. And so I'm very happy that this is the fight that got rebooked, just with a lot of things that happened over the summer after the last fight that fell through, with the title fight changing hands, and then AJ losing the rematch, and there could have been a trilogy, and Borix is in the air. So I didn't know what was going to happen, but I had a feeling that it was going to stay with Pico. And I had a feeling what happened and transpired is what happened. And that was AJ going up, Borix getting the rematch, and me getting rebooked with Pico. And that kind of settles us the top of the featherweight, the food chain right now.
Well, Jeremy, you seem like you're a magic predictor here. Maybe you should go buy a lottery ticket as well. If you kind of laid out everything was going to work out, and it worked out in your favor there. Pico, he did get to fight on the April 15th card. What have you seen from Pico? Because this is a guy that's really, when he started in Bellator, he had that, wrestling, boxing credential, but it seemed like he just wanted to make it a brawl. And now it seems like he's a complete mixed martial artist. Like, what have you taken from Aaron's game in his last few outings in Bellator?
It's really hard for me because he's doing everything he should be doing to the guys that he's doing it to. If that makes the most sense, they're all quality opponents. They're there for a reason, but he's a level above. So when you're fighting a guy when you're fighting guys a levels below you, you can make it look good. You can make it look really pretty, and you can make it look nasty with no repercussions. And I think he hasn't had much resistance in any of his fights, so he's been able to just be the one swinging the hammer the whole time. And I think that's up to me, though. I can't let him go in there and dictate it all. I have to go in there and shut it down. And so it's really hard to have a tough gauge, because when I'm watching him smash these guys, essentially, I'm just looking at it as like, that's not me. That's not me. I would do this here. I would do that there. So it's really hard to sit back and watch as a future opponent. As a fan, I'm like, damn, this guy's fun to watch. He's cool. He's hunting the body. He's chasing everything. He's big blast doubles. Like, it's everything what people want to see. But as long as they're feeding him guys that he had been feeding, so I think now this is his step up, and I think I'm really going to have to slow his game down, and you're going to see a lot more from both of us, because he's a guy that has that wrestling pedigree, and I like to lean on wrestling a lot too, and maul guys. So it's going to be a good one, man. I'm just, there's so many question marks that you can't really have too much of an opinion on it until we actually get in there and get our hands on each other.
And as for you, as you've already touched on, you've gone through 2 training camps for the same guy. How has camp gone for this fight here on October 1st against Aaron? And how did you make sure you didn't overtrain yourself, Jeremy? Because that can be a thing that happens.
Yeah, I mean, overtraining is possible, but we have so much time now. Like, I'm pretty much, I'm spent, man. Like, I put everything into this camp, in financially, training, added new elements of my game, everything. And this is the best me now. And, but now I get to kind of coast. I get to relax. I got a week of healing the body and just going through the motions and getting this weight off. So I'm sure I did overtrain at times in camp, and I'm sure everybody does it in this sport, especially this sport. Everyone doesn't know how to train. Probably we're all just going balls to the wall. But having it back to back is nice, because I went through the full camp. I watched footage with my coaches. We game planned and everything. Obviously, circumstances happened. The summer happened. We got to sit back. Still, I was training all the way through, because that's just what I'm doing out here. That's my life. And then when the fight got rebooked, I didn't have to have this big sit down meeting with everybody. Like, this is what we got to do. It was kind of like we picked up right where we left off. So instead of an 8-week camp, we've had like a 16-week camp divided into 2. So it's not like I trained this whole time for him. I had a hard camp, rest, hard camp, so, and I think this time I'm even better shape than I was the last time. So it's a blessing in disguise, is the only way I can look at it. It's not ideal. I went, 9 months now without a paycheck, because I did, and I've done all the financial same thing as a camp, right at the very last minute I get injured. So all that money was already spent. So it wasn't a blessing in any way, but to look at the positives is that I'm better now than I was then, and I'm more ready now than I was then. So I'm just ready to do it, though. I want to close those doors.
Yeah, yesterday. And I know you're obviously training at Extreme Couture, with Coach Eric Nixick and a great team there. Who are your training partners and just working with Eric right now? Because he's one of the top coaches in the sport and just a fountain of information.
Yeah. Well, Eric's my head coach, and Giff, my boxing coach, Eddie Baracco, my kickboxing coach. I've got a lot of good young stud wrestlers that are always just in town, at Extreme, and some good amateur guys that are just pure wrestlers and little green, but you just use them for wrestling and boxing. And Cody Garbrandt's been around, and Dan Ige. You know, I've had a lot of good guys that can mix it up feet to floor. Um, Added a new strength and conditioning in Project Wellbeing that they're like game changing, man. Like I'm waking up sore and things that I didn't even know existed, you know. So it's been awesome. From feet to the floor, I've just covered all my bases.
Oh, that's great to hear. And, obviously we're very much looking forward to this fight. This card also, because you're a featherweight here in Bellator, the featherweight title's on the line here on this card as well, Jeremy, as you said, you thought Pitbull would get Borix in the rematch. How do you see this fight going on October 1st for the title? Because obviously you've got your job to take at hand, but I'm sure you're going to keep an eye on the main event here at Bellator 286.
Yeah, like that. I'm not looking past Pico. You can't,
No.
So it's like that's like the distant. That's kind of like looking over the hill a little bit, and it's just something to be excited about after. All my focus is on Pico, but it's definitely nice to be able to fight and then go sit back and watch. Essentially who I'm going to be fighting next, and it's bittersweet for me because I got either way that fight goes. You got the legend in Pitbull that I can't not fight him before he retires. You got Pitbull and on the one side, the longest reigning champ and double champ, record breaker. And so I get to go and take his belt. Or you got Borix, who's the young kid, and I get my rematch. So either way, I'm happy. I just want a good fight. If I had to pick, I would probably say I think Borix is probably going to win. That's just me. I personally think he's going to be able to keep the range and win a decision just by outpointing and staying long on Pitbull, who's a pretty undersized featherweight, especially nowadays. Like we're all big guys now, coming up. And you saw it with AJ, he's a lot bigger of a 45er who actually ended up moving up to 55. And then Borix is a tall 6-foot guy. I'm 5'11", 6 foot. So we're all getting big now. And I think it's just a matter of time before that guard passes and changes. And I think Borix is the one to do it. Unfortunately, I would love to be the one to do it. So we'll see. We'll see.
Well, Jeremy, you've been with Bellator since about 2020. Obviously the pandemic was going on then at that point. So one, how excited are you to, be on this card where there's going to be a lot of fans? There's no more COVID restrictions or anything like that anymore. And two, like, seeing how the promotions kind of really had a strong finish to the end of the year with the cards they've put together, and really this Bellator 2.0 is in full succession. Like, it's got to make you feel like you made the right choice to sign with Bellator.
Oh yeah, man. And Bellator was always the one I wanted. Obviously when you're young, and I got signed right pretty early and young to the UFC. They were visiting my hometown and jumped on it. I was like 8-0, 22 or 23 or something like that. And then Bellator's always been in my mind. And just because I love their division, I'm a bit of a nerd in the sense of the 45 division, one championship. I know all their guys. I know their champ, their rankings, the UFC rankings, PFL, that whole division now with Movlid and Loughnane and all those guys. Like I'm a fan of the sport, but I'm a more fan of the featherweight division just because me fighting in it, and I don't know, I just have an extra excitement about it, And so when Bellator, I think they had just started their Grand Prix, the featherweights, that the big 16-man one, and I was in PFL at the time, but I was super interested in it and watching all these guys, and I was like, man, I want to fight the Corraleses, and I want to fight the Emmanuel Sanchez, and see how I match up with the Pico and the Borix and Pitbull and all these guys that like they had such a big featherweight division. So when I was already locked in with PFL, but then when they canceled their season, I was able to get a release, and because of COVID, and right away I was on the horn with Ali, my manager, and I was like, man, let's get Bellator, please. I would love to go there. That's my new home. That's what I want. I didn't like the tournament format, where the show goes on and it's a very short year and then you got the rest of the year off. I liked where Bellator was traveling. I like how they go to Europe, and biggest thing was their division, the featherweight division. So I wanted to test myself right away. And so I got on the horn. I was like, let's make this happen. And they were able to get it done. And I think I signed with them in October or late September, and I ended up fighting right away in November for them in 2020. So that was very cool. And then right away I got to jump up and I got to fight the that was right when they brought out the rankings, and got to fight the number 2. I think Borks was 2 at the time, and got to fight him right away. And then Sanchez at 4, and now Pico's at 4. So my third top 5 guy in a row. That just shows where I'm at in this division. So I love it, man. I'm very happy to be here, and I want to be the Emmanuel Sanchez's and the longtime Bellator guys, the guys who fought everywhere and fought everyone. You know, Weichel, all those guys. Those are the guys I kind of look to want to be a longtime champ here.
Yeah, it's great to see like the investment that Bellator put in from around that part of the pandemic, and guys like yourself in those lighter weight divisions. Obviously, they're closing out the Bantamweight Grand Prix at the end of this year, and that tournament's been fantastic. And I'm just happy to see that, like, the change in focus of not just signing all those ex-UFC guys, investing in top regional talent, or guys like yourself who have been around and that still have a lot left in the tank. So that's really working out for the promotion and for yourself. And I guess my last thing for you, Jeremy, is you're a proud Canadian. You know, Bellator seems like they've invested in the Canadians as well, like Josh Hill. I mean, Aaron Jeffries just coming off the biggest win of his career in the promotion. I know Bellator is thinking about getting outside of the States once again, you know, going to Mexico and Brazil. We got to get a Bellator back here in Canada. I mean, it's been a long time. I went to the last one in like 2013, thought they'd be back and haven't been back since. It's almost been 10 years. Jeremy, if you get a big win, I mean, we gotta call for a Bellator Canada again.
Yeah, we gotta scream for it, man. We got enough of the talent too. They've got Lance Gibson Jr.'s on the card too on October 1st. So we've got lots of Canadian. Mandonalo from out east. Like, there's a lot of Canadians. We could fill a full card. We would have to debate about where it'd be. I would want it on the West Coast, but we would have to see, man. I think they would do very well if they came to Canada. Maybe in a little bit, just because I know COVID and the traveling, there's some restrictions that are.
That's supposed to be done by the end of the month, Jeremy.
Yeah, so just getting lifted. So I think now's the time we can actually start having that conversation, and hopefully, man, they broke ground in Hawaii again after the pandemic. So let's get over down to Canada again.
I guess as well, one other thing I know. I know Ryzen is talking about doing cards in Hawaii, and Bellator's got a working agreement. Would it be cool for you to fight for Ryzen, whether it be in Hawaii or, you know, you representing the Bellator brand back in Japan?
That's been honestly, it's been one of my goals, my bucket list, I'd say. Not necessarily a goal, just a bucket list to fight in Japan. But now I'm with Bellator, it seems even more possible than ever. Just because I would never really go out there and fight for Pancreas or whatever when I was coming up, there was never that time to make it happen. But if there's ever a time, it would be now, because they have that such a good relationship between Bellator and Ryzen in Japan. And so, I mean, I'm all up. I'm game. You know, if my next one could be over there, that would be a dream come true. But I'm just happy to fight him. Can't wait to get back in there, man. That's all I'm looking forward to, is next Saturday and being on the West Coast. I've had all my fights in Bellator in Connecticut, so I'm excited to experience a different fight week outside of the Mohegan Sun. We'll see.
Well, Jeremy, best of luck. Safe trip out there to Long Beach when you make the trek. Well, perfect. Well, have a great time out there. Enjoy the West Coast lifestyle out in Long Beach. Long Beach seems like a really cool place that I'm happy to see Bellator venturing out to those places as well. But before I let you go, plug yourself out there on social media, because, you know, obviously you're really skyrocketing your career here in this Bellator featherweight division, and I'm sure you could use an extra couple follows.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. Biggest thing is, like, I'm on Twitter and I'm on Facebook, but all my content seems to be going through my Instagram. Like, that's kind of where I'm the most active. So that's Jeremy Kennedy 145. And so, especially leading up to this fight week, if you want to get some content and exclusive kind of stuff, what's going on, check that out.
All right, Jeremy. That's Jeremy Kennedy. He'll be taking on Aaron Pico at Bellator 286 on October the 1st, which is next Saturday at Bellator 286 in Long Beach, California. Jeremy, thank you for the time.
Of course, man. Thank you very much.